All right. Hello, hello. Happy homecoming. Thank you all for being here for the Writing Awards. If you've not had a chance to get a little nibble, there is hot food and fresh fruit. We have paid for it, so you should eat it because nothing good happens if it gets left over. I'm really pleased to see everybody here, everybody online. This is a happy tradition that the English department has. This is only my hi. Let me back up. I think I know you people, but I am Nosh Powell. I'm the chair of English. This is my second homecoming here, but I can feel that the roots for this being a community event for us run much deeper than that. So I am so pleased that again this year we're able to come together and celebrate the extraordinary work that our students do. ASU is a little unusual in that we do homecoming so late. Obviously we have to so that it is just slightly less hot than hell outside. But it does sort of make everything special because we're now like racing towards the holidays and the end of the semester. And in a very real way, this is kind of a kickoff event to when we wrap everything up and embrace our loved ones and hopefully sleep for a week and then gear up again for the spring. So just very, very excited to be here for this culmination and also kickoff to more good things. So with that, I am going to yield the floor for Sally Ball, who's going to introduce our first speaking.
That applause belongs entirely to somebody else. Okay. This is the poetry winner. Isdaly Reyes is an online film and media studies major in the Department of English at ASU while simultaneously attending Dartmouth, where she's pursuing her master's in creative writing. She enjoys watching horror films and reading and writing romance stories, and her hobbies include painting, reading, and writing. At ASU, she's involved in the Pi Lambda Chi Latina sorority. At Dartmouth, she's an editor for their literary journal and recently published 2 pieces in the latest issue. She's a founder of the Third Space Workshop in New Hampshire, where writers like her can meet and discuss their works. The prose poem that won is called Mementos. This prose poem evinces a fundamental quality of excellent writing. It uses the act of writing to think, to move more and more deeply into the subject matter. In this case, Mexican-American identity redefined in the face of ICE raids and deportations. Rather than setting forth a settled view, it explores, it makes discoveries, reckoning at every turn with complex feelings. The writing is vivid in image and in dramatic power. We feel the speaker's urgent search for what one person can do in the midst of upheaval. And it's my understanding that Isdaly couldn't come, obviously, and couldn't attend on Zoom, but has sent us a recording of a reading of the poem, and so that is what you're going to see next.
Hello, my name is Isdaly Reyes, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be awarded for my poem, Momentos, and I'm going to be reading it for you guys today. Okay. It's moments like these when I'm traveling for vacation, where I lie in a white bed and pinch myself to feel pain, to make an excuse for my tears, because it isn't fair. None of it has ever been. I chew my cheek now to soften my cries. Like a baby weaned off its mother, I feel suffocated. I check my phone and I'm met with people who look like me, are me, rounded up like dogs, shoved down. I wonder why it's me who gets to go where I want, why I get to live in pure gluttonous experience. It's not safe here to be Mexican, to be Latina. I don't want to be just some exotic thing sitting in the corners of this country. The prized diversity, promises of the promised land are being dragged out of my people. I want to scream and tell them not to come, but at a time I'll never understand what brings them here. And don't they deserve it too? The fullness of experience. I can't seem to stop picking at my skin, roll the brown pieces and watch them become one with the desert, the same ones my grandparents crossed, the same ones so many have. I am at a crossroads. Is to live my life to the fullest an act of defiance, or is it explicit ignorance, compliance, or protest? I've never known, and I serve as the top % of Mexicans who make it and break into all the spaces they've never been. The valet man speaks to my family in our tongue, asking us, ¿De dónde eres? Wayans, Arizona, and in him I see pride. To see a family with tongues riddled and rolled R's make it where we were never meant to be. I'm not sure if this is defiance or it's privilege. Could it be both? I'm basking in the state of my ancestors have given me. But why does it taste bittersweet? I want to help. I want to bring all my people in me, carry them in all my arms, become the land they once fled, nurse them, grow them. Then I want them to leave me, to cradle their own. But I can't. I cannot be Mother Mexico. I cannot save them. I can donate. I can write these thoughts down, force white people to read them, tell them my people are people, because as obvious as it is, I don't think they see it. I think they love math. To watch the numbers rise and fall, to think of us as a type of hunt. They say the hardest thing to hunt is a human, but when I watch ICE rip a child from their mother, I see only hardness in their eyes, but not in their actions. I can't understand, and I'm not sure I'll ever understand. There are no answers to the cruelty of the American way. They hate that we're rooted in the land. They hate that they have lost their culture, lost their tongue, and that when they want to head back to their ethnic roots, they would need to slice themselves to bits and mail each part. They hate how muddled their view is, how pride pulls in our eyes. I don't know if we're too different to understand, or if the understanding lies in the difference. I hope we learn to value our differences, because that's what I thought was the American way. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I am here to introduce and honor the winner of the scholarly essay for the Homecoming Award, Ava Claus. Ava is a double major in sustainability and English literature with a minor in biological sciences. After graduating, she plans to attend law school. At ASU, Ava is the president of the College Council at the College of Global Futures, as well as the vice president of Campus Student Sustainability Initiatives. Outside of ASU, she coaches a high school speech and debate team and works as a legal assistant at a law firm. And fun note, this is Ava's second time winning this award. She was also our winner for the Scholarly Award last year as well. And so Ava is being awarded for her essay entitled Beautiful Women, Powerful Nations, Constructions of Beauty and Their Geopolitical Implications. The review team felt the writer, or Ava, achieved a wonderful balance throughout this essay. Beginning with their literature review, she covers essential scholarship to set up the argument. Ava examines the beauty standards of women through advertising and its connection to nation building in the early 20th century. And through this, excelled in the combination of close reading and attention to key theoretical discourse. The team also felt the interdisciplinary nature of the project that showcased Ava's ideas and made it compelling, worthwhile, and a powerful contribution to scholarship in the area. And I believe Ava is also going to be a video.
Hi there, my name is Ava Claus, and I am so excited to be sharing an excerpt from my work with you today. I'd like to thank the selection committee for choosing my essay for the Scholarly Essay Award, and I'm excited to share. Let's get started. Beauty and the political economy are consistently linked, promoting beauty as a form of political participation. Advertisements and magazines targeted towards women emphasized that they had a, quote, right and duty to beauty, which was represented as democratically available, end quote. With newfound economic liberty and higher wages in the late 19th and early 20th century, the purchase of cosmetics moved out of the hands of the wealthy and into the realm of possibility for working class women. Advertisers played on this newfound economic opportunity for women by emphasizing the pursuit of beauty through consumer culture as their responsibility now that it was readily available. Women pursued this duty to beauty as an extension of the participation in democracy. For example, in Britain, quote, women who cultivated their bodies in the pursuit of beauty, health, and fitness represented civic virtue, end quote. In this way, although women freely explored cosmetics as a facet of beauty, advertising encouraged this exploration by directly linking it to democratic participation and women's dutiful presence within the political economy, thus beginning to form the ties between women's beauty and politics. Women's expanding opportunities within society formed a key signal of a nation's soft power, despite continued limitations. In the 1920s, many more women in the U.S. were beginning to graduate from four-year colleges, although they still faced social stigma in pursuing a career instead of being fully devoted to the home. Many beauty advertisements during this time period prominently featured women engaging in activities that might formerly be thought of as exclusively male, including exploring far-off places and participating in sports. The quote-unquote modern girl of the 1920s and 1930s, in particular, emphasized this type of exploration. Advertisements for cosmetics, quote, placed modern girls in new social situations, including romancing in public, playing sports, posing as film stars, or caring for the self in the bathroom, end quote. These portrayals of independent, fashionable women and their application of cosmetics situated both women's independence and cosmetics use within processes of racial and identity formation, both domestically and transnationally. These elements bled into international power politics, with advertisements for English beauty products in the US highlighting how English women were unparalleled in their exploration of the world and engagement in a flurry of activities, thereby emphasizing English dominance. Following the First World War, quote, the body was a key site for the construction of femininity. A modern, actively cultivated body was yet another aspect of women's liberation, end quote. And these constructions of femininity, alongside newfound liberation for women, were promoted overseas as an additional facet of a nation's soft power. Independent women were women who could explore the world while still looking beautiful and tending to their husband and children. A country whose women possess this independence must certainly be powerful. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be here. On behalf of our committee, here to celebrate and congratulate Elisa Ayala, who is an ASU online English major returning to school after about a decade away. Originally from Texas, she resides now in Northern Virginia with her partner, an adorable tortoiseshell cat. Her favorite hobbies include playing TTRPGs and video games, as well as voraciously reading queer speculative fiction. She writes sci-fi fantasy under the pen name of V.M. Ayala. And the committee comments on this prize-winning essay, on this prize-winning story. La Sirena's Blessing of Belonging by Elisa Ayala is a powerful and potent narrative that is fueled by keen insights. This work is deeply culturally and politically relevant in its depiction of the daily struggles of immigrants in the United States. La Sirena reminds us of the importance of hope and of our shared humanity when the world seems most bleak. It is beautifully written with language that is rich and lush. The story is brilliantly imaginative in the way that it interweaves folklore and Latinx culture with the urgency of our current political moment. This story is as luminous in its message as the imagery and scenes that Elisa Ayala has crafted. Vulnerable characters find sanctuary and unexpected heroes are transformed by selflessness. This story is an evocative meditation in which mythologies, magical realism, and pressing contemporary matters converge. Congratulations, Elisa.
I remember, it'd be good if I remembered to unmute, huh? Hi, I've never really done a reading live like this before through Zoom, so please bear with me. I'm a little nervous. So yes, this is La Sirena's Blessing of Belonging. The highway slab jutted out of the ocean away from the shoreline, thick columns of concrete poking above the waves. The house on top grew larger and larger as I rode closer and closer. A faded, blinking neon sign proclaimed the home, La Casa Sirena. It was famous, it was deplored, it was loved, it was feared. It was almost impossible to get to it with this useless boat. The squealing motor had quit after I couldn't pay the usage fees, but I managed with the flimsy complimentary oars. Mist soaked my tattered hoodie, leaving me sodden and weighed down until I wondered if I might sink this tiny thing. Maybe that would be easier than poking at the questions I wanted answers. Julieta waved from the distance like a lighthouse, except she lured me towards her rather than warned me away, daring me to dash myself upon her. We'd been texting for several months now. I smiled and waved back. It took a surprising choreography of rowing and awkward rope throwing and Julieta sweetly navigating me through tying the correct knot to come ashore. I scrambled up a well-kept metal rung, polished by daily use, embedded between rusted bones of rebar. They jutted out precariously close to my head as I pulled myself up, up, up. Ines, I'm so glad you came, and, well, sorry for the precarious trip. Julieta nodded with her chin at my dented piece of shit boat. I see the city is still the same. Never helpful. Tragically, I replied, it cost my entire rent to, well, rent a tiny boat and come out to the forbidden highway ruins. I had nowhere left to go but here. Not that Julieta needed to know that. La Sirena would solve this problem for me. She had to. We both stared out towards said city. The skyscrapers twinkled along the horizon, water from the bayous glittering in the now midday sun. Thank goodness it was winter. It was nice and cool, even in slightly thicker clothes. Thank goodness it wasn't a cold snap. Then my battered hoodie wouldn't be enough. Come, you came all this way for answers. Let me introduce you to my abuela. Julieta extended her hand shyly. I took hold, fingers entwined like my boat with its rope, now safely nestled in refurbished rubble. And that's it.
Thank you so much to our winners for sharing their work. We're going to move on to the second exciting portion of our ceremonies, which is the graduate students' flash talks. And I'm going to caution everyone as they come up. As you can see, we've had some technical difficulties. Please do not trip over the technical difficulties. Go around the stage.
Kind of like the idea of hearing from backstage. Next up are our flash talks. The English department offers PhD programs in literature, writing and rhetoric, linguistics, and English education, as well as an MFA program in creative writing. Our students dedicate upwards of 4 years to earning the highest qualification in our fields, culminating in novels, books of poetry, and dissertations which take years to write and in some cases run as long as 500 pages in length. I'm looking at a few people here. On the way to these achievements, our students teach freshman students in the first and most important classes that undergraduates take on campus. They co-author papers and books with their doctoral advisors. They reinvent the reading groups that keep us all going. And they bring together faculty who are siloed in different areas of the department, different schools of the university, and sometimes different universities across the nation. We could say that graduate students are the future of the university and the profession, but it probably would be more accurate to say that they are its living present. If I can speak in my own voice, I feel like we too rarely celebrate what our graduate students mean to the department. They do most of our work, and they concoct most of our fun. But today, 3 students, 2 recently defended and 1 very close to defending, right, have graciously and good-humoredly agreed to join us for a celebration and a little bit of a challenge, namely to give us a very, very brief taste in 5 minutes or less of these ambitious scholarly and creative projects. My colleagues, Miriam Galarita and Melissa Free, will be helping here. Miriam will be introducing our speakers, and Melissa Free has promised to be extraordinarily strict in keeping them to a 5-minute limit. So I'm going to disappear behind the curtain here.
Melissa, do hold up your bell so the people on Zoom can see it. I don't know where. Don't be intimidated by 5 minutes.
Okay, so our first flash talker, Shannon McKeown, is a PhD candidate in the Linguistics and Applied Linguistics program at Arizona State University. She holds an MA in Linguistics from Wayne State University. Her research integrates quantitative and qualitative methodologies to analyze various sociolinguistic issues, including how language facilitates power structures present in politics, legislation, and mass media, online discourses, and propaganda as a discourse genre. Her defense is scheduled for late spring 2026, and the title of her talk, is Modality, Hedging and Uncertainty in America's 2024 Election Night Coverage, a Critical Discourse Analysis.
Modality, Hedging and Uncertainty in America's 2024 Election Night Coverage. So we're going to talk about politics today, but don't cry. I've already done enough crying about this. So an overview of my study is this study examines how the anchors and data analysts of Fox News, MSNBC, and CNN convey certainty while interpreting and presenting incoming results during the 2024 election night coverage. So if any of y'all have watched this, they get new results and then they have to tell us what's going on and what's going to happen and what they think is going to happen. And there's a lot of cool information conveyed through this. So my study is a mixed methods design. I have a longitudinal statistical analysis. That's the boring stuff. We're not going to talk about that. I'm also doing qualitative approaches based in systemic functional linguistics. So the TLDR of systemic functional linguistics is that every time we speak, we are making choices. We are choosing to mean one thing and choosing to not mean something else, whether we're doing this intentionally or not. Then I'm pairing this with critical discourse analysis, which is basically just a means to identify how language interacts with power structures, how it perpetuates, facilitates, and is impacted by existing power structures. To support this, I have frame theory and agenda setting, which is basically the idea that media and the people who control the media are in charge of choosing what is presented as important news, and what they choose to present as important is then important to us because that is what we know to think is important. And then I have political economy of media, which is another facet of this, which is basically the people who control media, the people who own the media, the people who foot the bill for media have a lot of say in what media presents and what media considers important. So the TLDR of my study is I'm looking at which certainty markers are used, when they are used, and under what conditions. And this will demonstrate how these grammatical decisions intersect with institutional ideology, media integrity, and public trust. Whoop, back. Okay, so my study is looking at what grammatical choices hosts use during their live coverage, what changes occur in how they present certainty at the very beginning when they don't know what's going on, to the very end when they call the election. I want to know what similarities exist between these news stations. So do Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC present the same amount of certainty or lack of certainty at the beginning of the night, or do they favor one candidate over the other? And how does this change as they receive more information that may support or conflict with the information that they already have or the pre-held ideologies of their station? And this is all to examine what the broader socio-political implications and audience impacts of these are. So if one station favors one candidate all night, this could impact how we view the election. This was especially important in 2000 when Fox News called Georgia first, and there's been a lot of literature showing that that may have influenced how people perceived the outcome of the election and may have influenced the Supreme Court's decision. So my quantitative approach tracks shifts in certainty trends across benchmark time segments. I'm going to use chi-square tests, multinomial logistic regression, and all of these boring statistics basically to see if there's a statistical difference between how certainty is presented at the beginning of the night versus the end of the night, how it goes from uncertainty, hedging, where they might distance themselves from what they're trying to say, or certainty, where it's, yes, I 100% agree that this is going to happen. And then I also want to statistically compare whether these are different between each individual station across benchmark times, such as when polls close at specific locations. My qualitative approach is going to examine the text, which is the actual what are they saying, the discursive practices. So this is how information is conveyed. where do they convey it, who do they convey it, when do they convey it, what may influence what information is conveyed, and then social practices, which is what larger ideologies would interact with this process. So, for instance, Fox News is heavily conservative, so are they going to present a more positive presentation? The end. If you have questions, you can chat with me later.
Our next flash talker, Chloe Lutz Jensen, graduated from ASU with an MFA in creative writing and fiction and defended her thesis, a novel tentatively titled Honeypot, on April 14th, 2025. While at ASU, she served as the social media manager for Hayden's Fairy Review and won a 2025 Swartha Award in creative writing. Her work has been published in Story and the Colorado Review, and the title of her fiction is Honeypot, a Novel.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me. I'm just going to read a little snippet of the novel and then talk about how it came to be. Okay, it begins with an epigraph. Quote, I shot him because it was my duty. The man who succeeds him must not be the slave of capital, or he will perish too. Fred Neiman, September 9th, 2026, after shooting Jeff Bezos fatally. Okay. Chapter 1, Certain Classes of Demagogues. The whole thing started because I'd been out with Cliff Calvin a few times. After the assassination, when the campus went nuts and his big blonde face was everywhere, I thought maybe I could do something, because of my connection. I was more idealistic then. I'd met Cliff at the Golden Pineapple. It was a cocktail bar in South Tempe, not a strip club, like they started saying later. I was a server there for one summer, after my first year at ASU, where I was getting my master's in film and media studies. The last time I'd seen Cliff, before the Bezos assassination, was sometime in July. Then, the day after the shooting, there he was on the library steps, all Ken-doll hair and basketball-shaped shoulders, authoritative sounds coming out of his mouth in the direction of a rapt crowd of dude bros. I kept my distance, standing under a solar panel. It was still hitting 120 daily, and pretended I was looking at my phone, but I got the gist of what he was saying. People weren't using the word plutophobia yet, but he was hitting the same bullet points. Hatred of success, a socialist Luddite cabal, an organized effort to shut down free speech on college campuses. He was actually pretty eloquent, with an persuasive soundbite, even when what he was saying didn't make much sense to me. I remember noticing one thing in particular. He said the American university, and as a result, the integrity of American culture, was threatened by immature, misguided idealists. Rhetorically, it was an improvement on the attacks on intellectuals in their ivory towers, which I always thought sounded a little too fairy tale, a little too old world to really make sense out here in the desert. All right, so this novel actually started as an assignment for Tara Eisen's class on research-based fiction. She assigned us each to write about a medical or scientific term, which we were handed on an index card. Mine was plutophobia. Which I was disappointed to learn in my early Googling is not a real medical or scientific term. The first result was some clickbaity article like 12 crazy phobias you may never have heard of. And it told me that plutophobia is fear of wealth. And I was like, that's not a real thing, Tara. So I was disappointed because I like doing niche medical research. But then I did a Google book search, and I found this 1901 essay by an author supposedly named Solon Lauer, who I kind of still suspect is a fake person. And it was about the assassination of President William McKinley. And he was arguing that there was a pandemic of plutophobia, fear of wealth, and that the assassin who shot William McKinley was sort of wrapped up in this cult of people who wanted to take down the rich and powerful. And there were so many sentences in this essay that I just thought, wow, this sounds familiar. And so he writes, Solon Lauer writes, where's the demagoguery thing? This outcome, so the assassination, this outcome is the legitimate outcome of the agitation which certain classes of demagogues have been carrying out for years. The generation and aggravation of class hatred, the wholesale charges of robbery and oppression continuously brought against the large employers of labor, could not but end in violence sooner or later. And I thought, gee, wouldn't it be interesting if I transposed this assassination onto some large employer of labor, some successful person in our present day? I started this in 2024, so I keep having to push that future a little farther into the future. We'll see what the date is on this when the book actually comes out. You might have recognized the chapter title in there, and then that epigraph I started with was actually something that the real assassin said, that President William McKinley's assassin said, and so I've sort of been bringing all this historical research into the book in a fictional form and in the present day, and that's where it is now. So, thank you for letting me talk about it.
Okay, our last flash talker, Hannah Benefiel, defended her dissertation on November 10th, 2025 to complete her PhD in writing, rhetoric, and literacies. Since completing her dissertation, she looks forward to finally having the free time to watch Real Housewives and pet her dog. And the title of her talk is How We Learn to Eat, Rhetorical Education and the Language of Recovery.
Okay, so I am just going to read part of my dissertation, but let me give you some framing terms. I'm sorry I didn't print it out as I got here. I realized after 5.5 years here, I've been too scared to ask anyone how to print here, so it's on my computer. So my dissertation is about how rhetorical education can be seen in eating disorder recovery manuals. So rhetorical education is the teaching of rhetoric and communication to students in a way that prepares them to engage in civic discourse. So I apply this to eating disorder recovery manuals. Eating disorder recovery manuals are codified kind of textbooks for bodies in recovery from an eating disorder, teaching them how to get out of that disorder. So then rhetorical pedagogy is going to be a term that comes up. Rhetorical pedagogy is that thing that's happening in the classroom. So in this case, what the readers are reading in the recovery manuals. So in my dissertation, I came up with this framework. This is how rhetorical education terms are mapped onto eating disorder recovery manuals. So the framework I came up with is rhythm, ideal, inspiration, normal, and outcome. So I show how rhetorical behaviors are taught through this system. So I will read you from my conclusion. The framework I have developed throughout this dissertation began with the recovery manuals themselves. The terms I have drawn from them, rhythm, ideal, inspiration, normal, and outcomes, first described how eating disorder recovery is taught, but they also became a way of understanding how rhetorical education functions more broadly. The rhetorical pedagogy begins with rhythm because rhythm is the easiest thing to teach and the easiest thing to hear. Recovery starts by restoring a beat. Eat at this time in this way with this regularity. Once that rhythm is established, the ideal appears, giving direction and speed. The rhythms quicken towards a moral point that can never quite be reached. Inspiration follows, translating that unreachable goal into feeling, the emotional fuel that keeps the rhythm in motion. Over time, these repeated movements come to feel natural. They settle into a sense of the normal, the belief that what has been taught was always what should have been. When the pattern finally stabilizes, outcomes appear. The presence of measurable results is what allows both medicine and rhetoric to call a pedagogy successful. This framework matters because it reveals how pedagogy itself becomes invisible once it starts to work. The rhythms, ideals, and inspiration that organize recovery and civic life disappear into habit, and habit becomes belief. Rhetorical education teaches through those same structures. It teaches what feels right, what sounds reasonable, and what looks healthy. To understand how rhetoric educates, we must first be willing to see where that education is already happening in clinics, manuals, in classrooms, in news broadcasts, and in the moral judgments that govern who belong. The nation is constantly learning what it thinks health looks like, what it sounds like, and what it should weigh. Understanding this pedagogy is not only an academic exercise, it is a matter of survival. People are dying of eating disorders every day, not only because of medical neglect or lack of access to care, but because the cultural logics that sustain those illnesses continue to be taught, rehearsed, and rewarded. We cannot intervene in what we refuse to study. Watching how rhetorical pedagogies function, how they train bodies, beliefs, and rhythms is the only way to interrupt their power. By tracing how recovery manuals teach readers to live, we can begin to see one way rhetoric itself governs life and death. Both eating disorder recovery and rhetorical education depend on the same question: what kind of lessons shape the world we live in, and whose lives are made possible by the answers?